Good evening and welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging. It's Tuesday. I'm Aaron, and Stephen has graciously been forced out of the Game Master's seat, so I can jump into it for 2 to 3 weeks to showcase a game that is being kickstarted right now by a friend of ours, Pete Lattimore. He is the founder and Twitch director of Garblag Games. He created and successfully funded Dodeca, another ttrpg. He's a published ttrpg cartographer, and he is the prime Garblag of the Garpocalypse. And he has put together this wonderful game called Heroic Deeds, with artists Dean Spencer and Mustafa Bekir. So we're gonna give it a test run, and we're gonna see how it's going. But before that, we're gonna let our players introduce themselves, and they're going to tell us, since we're playing some fantasy tonight, they're going to tell us what their go-to character class or archetype is when they're playing high fantasy. So let's start with Kipser.
So shocking to everyone, I'm very sure. I have a tendency to like rogues and sorcerers. You know, a little bit of picking the pocket, unlocking the locks, take the take all the stuff from everybody else.
Excellent. Stephen.
So I was thinking about it, and the first character I can remember playing would have been a half-elf ranger back in 3E, but it's been a long time since then, and now I play spellcaster every chance I can get.
Awesome. Jeff.
Well, I don't usually play a lot of high fantasy, but I do very much enjoy dwarves, so I will play a dwarf usually any chance I get. And I'll play pretty much anything. I like clerics. I don't know. I like kind of jack of all trades characters. Like my favorite character I've ever played, which wasn't in a TTRPG, but it was more like a skald. So it was like part warrior, part bard, like that kind of stuff I really like.
And Melissa.
Yeah, so the short answer to that is frontline fighter is kind of the easiest thing to just pick up and go with. But in honesty, it's usually whatever I don't think I've played recently is the thing that I am now going to pick.
Wonderful. And for me, let's see, my first character was in 1978. We were playing the original pamphlets right after the original pamphlets of Dungeons and Dragons after Chainmail. And it was just a dwarf because dwarfs did not have classes back then. But more often than not, you could find me after that playing either a paladin or a ranger because I just like to mix it up and be a generally good guy. And my dislike for people translates well in both of those classes, so it's easy for me it's my wheelhouse. But enough about us. We're going to talk a little bit about Heroic Deeds. Check it out in the Discord. Somebody will do me the favor and drop the links for the Kickstarter itself. Jeff has got me hand. I knew Jeff would take care of it for me. Also, there is a specific Heroic Deeds Discord channel out there, so you can join the Discord. Pete is on it every day. He's dropping interesting facts about Heroic Deeds and the setting and additional information. He's really easy to talk to, so if you've got questions about it, shoot on over there and take a look. And as well, you can also go and download the quick starter rules right now from Drive-Thru RPG. It's got the quick starter rules that we are going to be using tonight to play. There's a free adventure. There's some additional information out there, so you can jump right into the game and give it a go yourself to see how you like it. And if you don't get enough here on the Lollygaggers and you want to check out some more actual plays of it, go check out Garblag Games, their YouTube channel. Pete has been running his own crew through the Red Hand of Doom, which I've mentioned every week for the last couple of months. And you can see it there. We're only going to play a few weeks. So you're not going to see these characters really level up. But if you want to see how the deed mechanic works and leveling up works, go check out those videos on Garblag Games, and you'll see those characters really start to progress before he kills them off, which has not happened yet. So they've been pretty lucky. So I think that's all the boilerplate information out of the way. So let's talk a little bit about heroic deeds. So what is heroic deeds? I'm going to let Pete's words speak for themselves here because I think he sums it up better than anybody else could. Heroic Deeds is a goal-based heroic fantasy role-playing game with an old-school aesthetic but modern mechanics. It's about exploring an unknown land, locating strange and dangerous ruins, and delving into dungeons. Along the way, players form their legends and take on adventures to complete deeds. And as their deeds grow, the heroes gain more abilities and influence. And slowly, they start to explore the edge of civilization and uncover lost treasures. They are guided, refereed, and challenged by their game master, whose role it is to be an arbiter of the world. And the players decide what they want to do. The rules and dice dictate what is possible, and the game master informs of the outcomes and the consequences. It's also their jobs to represent the rest of the world around them. So all of us who have been playing TTRPGs for a long time get that. That's what my job is going to be. It's not going to be just to kill Steven. That's just one of my goals. Goal-based. I think it's a very important concept for this game. The major difference you're going to find between Heroic Deeds and some other well-known fantasy role-playing games is that in other games, characters often gain experience points, which they then convert into boosts for their attributes or skills, or they level up and they get set benefits. In Heroic Deeds, it's right in the name, deeds. Every archetype has specific deeds, and you fill in your deeds as you go along. And once you've completed a specific deed, you get a specific boon, talent, attribute bonus for that. But in that way, you can sort of drive your character the direction you want it to go. It's not cookie cutter. And then once you've completed 3 deeds, you level up to the next level. And then you've got additional sets of deeds that you can pull upon. So the original deeds you had plus the deeds from the second level open up to you so you can really nuance your character in a direction that you want them to be represented in. Now, Heroic Deeds, the system itself is... The mechanics are very system agnostic. You could pull this out. You could drop it into Faerun. You could drop it into the Flanness. You could drop it into the Old World. You could drop it into Meldabone or Lockmar, wherever you want. However, Pete has developed a very interesting setting called the World Mount or Undrun, and it's a giant celestial mountain of sorts with plains along each level. So you'll see throughout the game descriptions, there'll be references to the World Mountain, and at the actual final Kickstarter version, there'll be an entire chapter on it. So if you want to flesh out the World Mountain and really dive into it, you'll have that opportunity. Now, we talked a little bit about your legend, and that is how we create characters in this game. You create your legend through a series of roles or choices that you make. And that's what we're going to start with tonight. We're going to start with character creation. Now, as I said, you can roll or choose. We are going to roll for our legend. And then when we get to archetype, we're going to allow our characters to choose, or our players to choose their characters' archetypes. And then we will finish off the legend. And time permitting, we'll jump into some action tonight. Before we get into the roles, though, I want to give you a little bit of information about what you're going to be listening for. So in the game, you have 6 attributes. 2 of them are natural attributes. In other words, they're what you were born with. There's guile, which is your natural cunning, your natural perception and awareness. And there's vigor, which is the measure of your athleticism, robustness, your physicality. And those are your natural attributes. Then you have supernatural attributes, and those are occult and psyche. Occult is it's your ability to sense and understand and control external supernatural sources. So the magic around you. And then psyche is your inner strength, your force of will, and your personal confidence. And then the last set of attributes are professional attributes, and those are education and training. And so education is what you learned. It's your book learning, academic understanding of the world. So it's when you sat in school, you figured some shit out, that's education. And then training is just what you think. It's what you've trained yourself to be. So those are your 6 attributes. Under each attribute, there are 3 skills that are associated with it. And so what happens is, as we start filling out and rolling our characters up, each sentence of your legend, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second, will give you a descriptor that you can role play to, and it will give you a bonus to your attribute and to a skill. All of your attributes start at a base 2. No attribute can go above 5. All of your skills start at 0, and no skill can go above 5. So the first step in your legend is you were born. So it's got a similar feel to some life paths. So the sentence starts, I was born. And then you roll a d12. So we're going to start with Stephen. Stephen is going to roll a d12 for me and tell me what he gets.
All right. 7.
7. So I was born among the clouds. You were a native to the sky islands of Yanneth or some other celestial kingdom? Or do you trade with the stalactite dwelling hawkfolk? So you were born to the clouds. So between now and next Tuesday, you'll tell us how that fits into your character. You were born to the clouds. What way does that matter? So you get a plus.
Sound pretty cool.
So it could be you could be a trader. Your family could have chartered an airship and been traders with hawk folks. You get a +1 to your education. So your education is now 3, and you get 1 pip in survival. Make a note.
All right, got it.
You were born among the clouds. Kipser, give me a d12.
I have rolled a 4 to muck and toil. That's about right.
So you're from a lower tier of society, born to a simple life on the land. You were maybe a farmer, or you worked as a low merchant or something like that. So that gives you a +1 to psyche. So your internal mental fortitude's a little tougher from having lived that lifestyle, and you get +1 to street. Now, survival, what Stephen got, that's surviving outdoors. That's in wilderness. That's foraging, being able to make a camp, being able to make a fire, hunting. That's survival. Street is the exact same in an urban setting, being able to survive the mean streets of whatever city you were born in. All right, Jeff, give us a d12.
All right. I got a 12, Lolly.
Okay, so you were born into the rank and file. So either your family were camp followers, or your parents were in the military. You're raised on a fort or a military base of some sort. So you grew up working out with the soldiers. So you get a +1 to your training, and you get one pip in tactics. Now, tactics is it's what you think. It's military tactics. It's being able to situationally consider a battlefield. But also, tactics is one of the skills that you roll for initiative. You either roll tactics or observe. So that gives you a bump in initiative. And we'll talk about some of the mechanics when we get a little deeper into it. So we've got someone born among the clouds, someone born to muck and toil, and someone born into the rank and file. Melissa, how are you born?
So I rolled an 11, which is in a long shadow.
Nice. So some mundane but dark past hangs over you. Was it your fault, or do the sins of your parents linger? So we'll find out about that next week when we actually fully meet our characters. And I can't wait to see how Melissa was born in a long shadow. Now, this also gives her +1 to her training attribute and gives her 1 pip in shadow. Shadow is kind of what you think. It's stealth. It's being able to track someone stealthily. It's sneaking around, pickpocketing, that kind of thing. Possibly opening locks, but more than likely opening locks would be under operate, depending on the kind of lock. But now we all know how our 4 characters were born. That's the first line of their legend. The second line of their legend starts with I trust. So this is the second step of your legend and represents what your character holds dear to themselves. So let's start with Kipser this time. What does your character trust?
I trust 5. I trust not but steal. Ooh.
Okay. So the world is controlled by those with the biggest armies, and you know the values of the art of war. So maybe you were in a street gang or something. Who knows? We'll find out. But you also get a point in training. And you get 1 pip in the skill prowess. And prowess is used for a lot of melee combat skills. So we'll get into this when we get into the trappings a little bit later, but depending on the type of weapon you use determines what skill you use with that weapon. So after we've built our legend, you can say, okay, well, I'm really good at prowess. I might want to use a weapon that's based on prowess. So you can see how that starts to dial together. All right, Jeff, what do you trust? What do you hold dear?
All right.
Other than Steven, apparently.
I got an 11 this time. I trust in coin, or I trust coin. Oh, I definitely don't trust Steven. I'm not stupid. Are you kidding? Coin. There we go.
I like it. So we all know that money makes the world mountain turn. The lure of gold has made you adventurous. So coming out of a mercenary lifestyle, perhaps making the cash made sense. So you get a point in guile, and you get a pip in the skill deceive. And deceive is just what it sounds like. It's deceiving people. All right, Melissa. What do you trust? What do you hold dear?
Okay. I trust the weakness of others.
All right. So a shrewd observer of people, you identify their weaknesses or vices and use it against them. So you get a point in psyche, in the attribute psyche, and you get a pip in the skill insight. And insight is much like it sounds like. It's reading people. It's knowing when somebody's lying. So if, let's say, Jeff's character was trying to deceive you, you would roll insight against his deception roll as opposed rolls, and the person who got the most successes would know whether or not Jeff was full of shit or not. And that brings us back around. Yes.
Seeing a rogue, that the steps are definitely going.
It's ticking down that way.
Be an upright person this time. Oh no,
it's ticking down that way. But we'll see. There's a lot more. There's a lot more to your beginning legend to be found. That brings us back around to Steven. What do you trust or hold dear?
All right. 9. I trust what I can see before me.
All right. So the gods, magic, and the ether may all be undeniable, but the world around you is real enough for you. So you get a point in vigor, which is your basic physical athleticism, as we discussed, and a pip in survival.
That's 2 in survival now.
2 in survival. So, you're a pretty hardy guy out in the wilds.
In real life too, but who's bragging?
I would have never doubted that. Honest.
He survives all sorts of crazy things, including extraterrestrial encounters.
Okay, that did happen. I have footage.
I know. I'm saying it. And you survived it.
And you're here tonight.
You're here.
So you survived it.
You wouldn't be here otherwise.
We won't ask about any probing or anything like that. We don't want to know. But
just presume it happened.
We just you gotta roll with that. All right, so we've talked about who you were born. We've talked about what you hold dear. Now, the third line of your legend starts, "The world taught me." So this is about your youth, and it reveals something about your upbringing. This will provide you, once again, an attribute boost and a skill increase. So this time, we're going to start with Jeff. Roll me a d12.
Okay. The world taught me 9. Knowledge is power. I'm all over the place. All right.
So
That's
those
another point in guile, though.
yeah, those at the top are there because they hold all the secrets. What would you do with the secrets if you held them? So you get another point in guile, and you get a point in lore. So, and this is like lore is a catch-all knowledge skill. I mean, it's understanding things about the world. It's deciphering things. So, we'll go with Melissa. What's the world taught you? What was your young years like?
So I rolled 11 again. So the
Okay.
world taught me that forewarned is forearmed.
I like it. Although no plan survives first contact with the enemy, any kind of conflict is made easier with preparation. In other words, you plan for this stuff. You get a point in education. So you've got some book learning under you, and you get a pip in the tactics skill. And once again, that
Nice.
can impact your initiative and a few other things, which we'll get into a little bit more when we talk about skills. So background to Stephen. What was your
All right.
young years like?
The world taught me a dark truth.
Ooh. Your eyes were open to something foreboding of a magical or political nature. How do you cope with it? We'll find out how he copes next week. I'm sure he'll be interesting. You get a point in education, and you get a pip in the skill arcane. And Kipser, what
Hey,
was your
Reddy.
young years like? What did
Ooh, a
the world
10.
teach you?
The world taught me action must be taken. I am a frontline fighter for sure.
Sometimes talk is not enough. Endless circles of debate paralyzing whole societies. It is better to act. So we'll hear about how Kipser's young character acted in their youth. This gives you a point in training and a point, a pip in might, which is like your strength-based skills, and obviously used for like heavier weapons and things like that. All right, I think the world has taught everyone something at this point. So we're going to track down to I seek the next sentence of your legend. So this is your cause, is your fourth step. It hints towards the motivations that drive you to adventure. So Melissa, we are going to start with you and see what you seek.
I seek fame and fortune.
You seek fame and fortune. Who doesn't want to become a world-renowned adventurer with their own private castle? I mean, it does sound
who
pretty
doesn't?
good, really. Yeah. I mean, property taxes on a castle would be outrageous, particularly if you live in California. But still, you got to have some fun with it, right? So you get a point in guile, and you get a pip in survival as well. So we've got
Very spread so far.
Get some rough and tumbles all over the place. Stephen, what do you seek? What motivates you to adventure?
I seek forbidden knowledge.
Holy crap.
Oh, yeah.
So the dark places of the world hold great power and arcane mysteries, and you will recover it. So you get a point in occult, and you get a pip in the skill weird. Basically, I think Stephen has re-rolled Sobek.
But a little bit harder.
That went super well. That went super well.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
It speaks well to your odds of killing him again.
It does. It really
Right.
does. It helps me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Jeff, for the future overlay, just Sobek Jr. That's all we need.
Sobek Jr. Done. I got it.
Kipser, what do you seek? What compels you
Nothing.
to adventure?
I seek ultimate power.
Well, all right. The truth is that ultimate power resides in the arcane ways of the dwarves of the Age of Formation. You get a point in occult, and you get a pip in the arcane.
Okay.
So interesting. And Jeff, what do you seek?
Okay. I seek. Let me try it again. I seek a better life. Look at that.
All right. There is escape from your life aside from gathering your things and heading off in search of an adventure. So you get a point in guile. You're very guile. And you get a pip in craft.
I've maxed out Guile. In fact, I'm at 5. Can't go any
All
higher.
right, there you go. So
Wow.
you are the master of guile.
Sonic Boom.
All right.
Let's go.
So those are your legends, the sentences of your legends that bring you to the point where you select your archetype. So I'm going to read what the archetypes are in the quick starter, and these are the archetypes that are going to be in the core book. I know that Pete has teased the possibility of additional archetypes if if he gets into those far enough into stretch goals or for future supplements. But these kind of cover a lot of the basics that you find in fantasy games. It gives them a very interesting new spin on them. So bear with me. The first is Battle Rager. This is a school of fighting that was created to counter the reckless creatures that spilled forth from the Age of Challenge. Battle Ragers give themselves over to battle, putting their focus on destroying and debilitating their enemies. Might is key to their survival as they expend wounds and rely on dealing damage. Psyche is also important as they need to convince their opponents of their complete lack of fear of death. So Battle Rager, you can think it's kind of your classic Berserker, Barbarian, Slayer from Warhammer 4K or 4E. So that kind of feel for it. It's your Conan the Barbarian. Next, we have the Dark Delver, a skilled dungeoneer and rugged survivalist that finds powerful relics in the depths of, I'm going to butcher this, Barg Dumaraz, which is part of the old world, but imagine any great dwarven undercity. The Dark Delver is competent and stealthy in combat and an expert in disabling traps and evading enemies. Guile is important for a Dark Delver, as a lot of their abilities are around sneaking and awareness. Likewise, training is valuable as they rely on mechanical expertise to overcome traps. Third is the Light Bearer, a warrior and adventurer that is a living concentration of divine energies that permeate the layers of the world mountain. They are chosen by their gods to lead the battle against the darkness. Might is important for a light bearer, as they must take up arms against foul creatures. Psyche is even more so, as nothing defends a light bearer more than their resolve and faith. So, you've got Dark Delver is obviously very similar to a rogues or artificers to a certain degree. Light Bearer definitely has that feel of paladin or cleric or a Templar or something along those lines. Next is the Oathsworn. This is a warrior of ultimate skill and dedication who has chosen a path of martial perfection. Emboldened by their physical prowess, these fighters often lead groups of adventurers on their perilous quests into dark dungeons. Prowess is the focus of the Oathsworn as it governs most martial weapons. Might is also fundamental, ensuring they are vital and able enough to perform feats of physical strength. So this is your classic fighter, a professional mercenary. Next up, we have the Rune Wielder, a magic user that learned of the ancient runic arts and harnesses great power through arcane spells. Their path required them to understand the deeper and sometimes darker secrets of the world mountain. Occult is key to a Rune Wielder, as it is a doorway to arcane and the source of their powers. Due to their exploration of myths and enigmas, their education is also important to their abilities. And then last, we have the Wind Walker. Somehow infested with a piece of the Verdance, if you're thinking Dungeons & Dragons parlance, something similar to maybe the Feywild, these wanderers know the ways and forms of nature. So completely do they know them that they have access to powerful adaptations, which allows them to shift their shapes. Might is important to a Windwalker as they literally change and twist their body forms every day. Education is also key, developing as they learn the truths of the Verdance within them. So this is interesting. They're kind of a druid feel to them. There's also a bit of the spore druid in there. as an idea, and obviously as a shapeshifter. So those are the archetypes that are included in the quick starter. And before we get into choices on that, I want to talk a little bit about ancestries. Now, ancestries in Heroic D's at this time have no mechanical benefit to them whatsoever, and that was in part to make sure that you picked an ancestry that you wanted to role play, that you felt interested in role playing, so you didn't feel like you had to pick one for a mechanical requirement because it gave you certain boosts to your attributes or gave you a certain skill. Pete has toyed with the idea, and you may find in the final version that he does add a little bit to the ancestries, but it would mainly be a boost to a specific defense. And we'll talk a little bit more about defenses when we get a little deeper into the rules themselves. But currently, the ancestries are dwarfs, humans, Jotun, which are like, they have the blood of giants in them. They're like half giants. Dracon, which are similar to humanoid dragons in appearance. You have gnomes, elves, and minotaur, which are all very much like you would think of them in their classic fantasy tropes. Saurians are very typical of your lizard people, or perhaps anthropomorphic dinosaur of some sort. Then you have goblins, hobgoblins, orcs, and kobolds, which are your your races that are from generally from like the Underdark or from the wilds, not as civilized, but here they are. All of these races interact fully within society without any stigma, so there's none of that going to be attached, at least not to any games that I'm running. So basically, you can pick whatever ancestry you want to pick to reflect what you want to role play. You don't have to pick it now because it may, maybe you may change based on what you end up picking for your archetype. So that will be up to you. So at this point, I am going to give our players a few minutes to look over the archetypes, to maybe talk amongst themselves in Discord, decide how they want to select their archetypes. And while they're doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the anatomy of a character, what these stats kind of mean, and then maybe talk a little bit about the mechanics. And then we will come back and we will see what they've decided, and then we will finish up the heroics. So while they're talking in the background, let's talk a little bit about making rolls in the game. This is a D12 game. You don't need any other dice, just a handful of D12s. Generally speaking, I can't imagine you would need more than 7 or 8 D12s. Probably not that many, definitely not that many as you begin, but I am going to explain why. So in this game, you roll a number of dice equal to your attribute. So let's say Jeff's got a guile of 5. So his minimum pool is 5d12, and he's rolling a guile test. Now, when you roll that, you're rolling against a skill. Now, to succeed, and most rolls only need 1 success, but to succeed, you need to get an 11 or a 12 if you have no training in the skill you're rolling at. That's where skills come into play. So for each point you have in a skill, it reduces the target number of what you need to roll in that D12. So let's say you had 3 in shadow. And let's say, so that would take you from an 11 to a 10 to a 9 to an 8. So then all you would have to do is roll an 8 or higher to succeed with that stat check. And that can be modified based on, you could get bonus dice from gear or from certain circumstances. Like if you're firing an arrow from an elevated position, it's somebody who's prone on the ground. You might get bonus dice. You can also lose dice. Let's say that you need, you're in total darkness and you're trying to fire an arrow in total darkness. Well, I might subtract dice from that. Generally speaking, like I said, you only need 1 success to succeed in a check. There may be circumstances where the difficulty increases. Let's say you're trying to jump a 15-foot gap in a pouring rain, and you're running for your life because there's a pack of ghouls behind you. I might say, well, you need 2 successes to successfully make that jump, and then you would roll that. The other areas where you might need multiple successes is when you get into combat, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there. But that's usually if you're making more than one attack in a turn. But we'll get there. In addition, when you're rolling your dice, let's say you do need 2 successes and you get 1 success. There is a mechanic called success at a cost. So if you roll 1 fewer successes than you need, you can spend a point of vitality, which is a currency and a measure of your well-being, to make that a success. And then the last thing about rolling that we're going to talk about real quick is the hero die. So in your pool of dice, you're always going to have 1d12 that is a different color, or that you've identified as the hero die. And you're going to roll that every time you roll your dice. Now, what is important about the hero die is, let's say your target number is a 10, and you roll 110, and you're rolling 3 sets of dice. You roll 110, and you roll a 5, and then you roll a 5 on your hero die. If your hero die matches the number of another die you rolled, then that counts as a success. So that is a way for it to succeed. Okay? And we'll see more of that when we actually get into play. In addition, there are extended rolls. So let's say you're picking a complex lock. I might tell you that you need to get 4 successes, on that. Not in one roll, but 4 iterative successes. So 4 rolls, 1 success each time, over like a combat turn, which is 6 seconds. So if you're trying to pick a lock while everybody else is fighting around you, I might say, well, it's going to take you 4 successes in 24 seconds to do it. So that would be an extended roll. And we already talked a little bit about opposed rolls. That would be like insight versus deception. We roll all of our dice. Whoever gets the most number of successes succeeds at the check. And then one last mechanic I want to talk about really quick is the luck mechanic. So this is the meta currency in the game. And you have a number of luck points equal to the number of players plus 1. So when we're playing, there's going to be 5 luck points. And I've got 5 little cool fantasy poker chips. And the interesting way about this is I've got them all set to one side. When a player wants to use a luck point, you say, okay, I need to use a luck point because I want to re-roll my dice because they were crap. You use it, but then it flips to the other side, and then it's bad luck, and that's a resource for me. So it's always a trade-off between what you get and what I get. So you can use luck to re-roll any number of dice you just rolled, but you must accept the second result on those dice. And then I can turn around and do the same thing with bad luck. And I'm not saying that I would target Steven's character with my bad luck points, because that'd be wrong of a GM to call out a cleric.
I mean, you would say it out loud that you were going to do that.
Exactly. You might see it sort of happen through play, but I would never say it out loud.
Okay, someone in the audience start keeping track of when he uses bad luck. Let's get some stats in here.
It's important. Somebody should keep a very close eye on that. Another important thing that's derived from your attributes are your defense scores. Now, these are the targets that I would roll against when I'm trying to damage you. And we'll talk about how combat works in a little bit. The first is toughness, and toughness is your ability to absorb or shrug off physical harm. So that's going to be 4 plus your vigor. Now, don't write it down yet because your vigor could change as we finish out your archetype, but that's toughness. Vigor plus 4. Evasion is your ability to avoid surprise areas of effect or ranged combat, and that is your guile plus your training. And if you're using the Foundry module, it auto calculates for you there. And then the last defense you have is Defiance. And Defiance is your occult plus your psyche plus your education, and it's your ability to resist mental effects. So some sorceries, the frightened effect, things like that might proc off of Defiance. And then there is protection. Protection is your physical protection. It's your armor. And this reduces the strength of the damage. So let's say in combat, somebody rolls to hit, and let's say they hit, and they get 3 successes on their hit roll, and their weapon has a strength of 5. So they get to add their extra successes to the strength of the weapon. So that would take this weapon's dice up to 7. So they would be rolling 7 dice against your defense number as the target to do damage to you. But whoever's defending gets to subtract a number of dice equal to their protection value of their arm. So there's a mechanic in there. So basically, it's that your damage has to get through the toughness of the armor that you're wearing. And we kind of touched on this a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and explain wounds and vitality. So wounds are your classic hit points. It's your life source. When your wounds reach 0, you die. They are equal to double your vigor score. And then vitality is your ability to soak up hardship, and it is a resource for activating certain abilities and powers. If your vitality reaches 0, there's a condition that you have that either reduces one of your defenses, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And that is equal to your vigor plus your psyche plus your training. So think of vitality as it's pseudo hit points, but it's also a resource that you use to fuel some of your abilities. All right, I was dancing around there for a while. So does everybody have their archetype selected? All right, we are going to start with Steven. Steven, what archetype did you select?
I have chosen Rune Wielder because I have occult and education.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about Rune Wielder real quick. Scroll down there to Rune Wielder. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish out your archetype and select your abilities, and then we'll move on. So we've talked a little bit about what Rune Wielders are. Your classic wizards, sages, warlocks, witches, etc. From a mechanical standpoint, you'll have another line in your legend, but let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of it. You're going to gain +1 to your education and to your occult, and you're going to get 2 initial talents. So you get an additional point in your education and an additional point in occult. Rune Wielders use vitality to cast magic, so it pays to keep that resource topped up whenever possible and avoid direct attacks that might sap it. A starting Rune Wielder, this is some of your trappings, begins the game with an academic kit, a dagger, a traveling coke, and a purse containing 1d12 plus 6 silver pieces, which you can roll whenever you want. They also begin with a spell book and scrolls, and that is reflects their talents, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But before we come to the talents, let's find out what Steven's next line of his legend is. Magic came to me. Give me a d12.
All right, magic came to me in a strange discovery.
Delving into the ancient ruins beneath Arlorn, you discovered a hidden trove, an arcane codex inscribed in stone. Or, that's a suggestion. Whatever it is, you'll tell us about next week, and that gives you a point in lore.
Or he discovered something in the sky, communicating with him, Endor coming down to steal his boat.
Could be.
Just brainstorming.
We'll find. We'll hear all about his legend next week. So the Rune Wielder gets 2 starting talents. One is Arcane Secrets. So you're able to cast arcane magic. You'll select 4 spells, and these are inscribed within your spell book that you can read from in order to cast spells. When you use the cast spell action, the spell becomes more powerful the more actions you use to cast it. Arcane magic takes a great toll both on body and mind. Unless otherwise stated, whenever you cast a spell, you must consume a runic item, like a scroll, or spend the vitality as listed under the spell description. There are 4 types of spells that the Rune Wielders gain access to: bindings, charms, invocations, and wards. And we'll take a look at those in just a second. The second talent you get is Scribe Scrolls. And this is a downtime activity. It costs 10 silver pieces. You can imbue scrolls with spells from your spell book or another scroll. Scribing the scroll turns it into a runic item. When you use this activity, you create 5+ level scrolls and must detail which spells you have used. When you cast a spell consuming a scroll, you cast them as if you were using the 1-action version of the spell, but it does not cost you any vitality. You begin your adventure with 6 scrolls inscribed with spells that you have copied from your spell book. So we're going to flip down and we're going to take a look at the spells. When my PDF catches up with me. See, one of the interesting things about the archetypes is they all have special talents they draw from, and they're all different. So if you look down at the spells, the bindings are Arcane Seal, Explosive Ruin, Hardened Armor, and Keen Weapon. And the charms are Cause Fear, Distracting Sounds, Friend to Foe, and Mind Fog. The invocations are Firebolt, Kinetic Blast, Mind Spike, and Web Blast. And the wards are Alarm Ruin, Intellect Fortress, Mage Shield, and Summon Barrier. Now, I'm going to let Stephen take some time to pick his spells while we're going through everybody else's. But the interesting thing is about a spell, and I'm just going to read one to give you an idea of how it works. So let's look at the ward Alarm Ruin. The base effect, you spend 2 vitality. Your fingers trace a rune in the air. If an enemy passes within 30 feet of the location of the ruin, it is activated with the listed effect of the action. The ruin is invisible but may be sensed with a weird check. It is not activated if it is not activated within 24 hours, the spell ends. So if you cast that with 1 action, it emits a loud repeating noise for the round, and then the spell ends. So it's an alarm. If you cast it with 2 actions, it silently alerts you to the presence, and then the spell ends. And then if you cast it with 3 actions, it gives you a mental image of the area around where the spell was cast, then the spell ends. So you can see how if you decide to spend the vitality and then spend 3 actions on casting it, that each of these spells become significantly more powerful. Stephen, do you have any questions about?
No, I think I got it. It's
that?
pretty interesting.
Pretty interesting. I like the mechanics a lot. So you're gonna start with 6 scrolls from the 4 spells that you are going to be able to select. And I just want to talk a little bit about deeds here since we're on it. So the level 1 deeds for a Ruin Wielder are Arcane Understanding, Defensive Arts, Forge Magic, Magician in Training, Offensive Arts, and Trickster. And the way a deed works is it relates to what you're doing in your action. So if you look at Arcane Understanding, there are 4 pips under it, and it says cast 4 spells without consuming a runic item. In other words, you spend vitality to cast a spell. Each time you do that, you would circle in one of the pips under Arcane Understanding. And when you had all 4 of them circled in, you would get the reward, which is you learn a new Rune Wielder spell. So your magic increases. Another example, Forge Magic. Cast 4 bindings in combat or an encounter. So you've gone hard into the bindings type of spells. You do that 4 times where it matters. And that's another thing. Deeds, it has to be something where it matters. You can't just be like, I'm just sitting around my campfire and I'm going to cast 4 bindings. I get that. It has to have an impact on the story. But let's say you do fill in all 4 of those, your reward would be to gain the Artificer talent. So there's specific talents that can be tied to the deeds. There's certain, and you can also increase certain stats or skills. So, and every archetype's deeds are different and tailored to them. So that's the Rune Wielder. That's Stephen. We'll hear about his spells a little later. Kipser, what archetype did you select?
I have a lot of points in training. So I was looking at the Light Bearer or the Oath Sworn. And I think I'll go with the Oath Sworn as just a frontline standard fighter. I do have a bit in Occult, which is tempting with the Light Bearer, but I'm going to do Oath Sworn. Yeah.
Okay, Oath Sworn. When creating your legend as an exceptional warrior, your 5th step details your solemn pledge, which we will roll in a second. In addition to the benefits from the table, you gain +1 to your vigor and to training. And you get 3 initial talents, which we're going to talk about in a second. A starting Oath Sworn begins the game with an explorer's kit, a trusty weapon of your choice, battle axe, longsword, warhammer, a chain halberd, some armor, a medium shield, a traveling coke, and a purse containing 1d12 plus 6 silver pieces. Now, let's roll a d12 and find out what your life is pledged to.
I rolled a 5, so my life is unfortunately pledged to defending the meek.
People of this land deserve protection against the darker forces of the world mountain, and you've taken on that duty. So we might flavors of paladinhood here. So you get a bonus to your survival. So you get 1 more point in survival.
Survival. 1 point in survival, yes.
And you have 3 starting talents. We're going to start with Take a Breath. So this talent is it's triggered with a special. It doesn't cost any action. It's instantaneous. Spend a number of actions to recover the same number of points of vitality. You may only use this a number of times equal to 1 plus your level per day. So at the beginning, you can use this twice a day. You can spend up to 3 actions to recover up to 3 points of vitality. Warrior Bearing. This action, this costs 1 action to trigger. It costs 1 vitality to trigger, and it lasts for 10 minutes. You may use your vigor or training as the governing attribute for composure or manipulation skills. So if I call you to do a manipulation, you're like, I'm shit in manipulation. You could spend a point of vitality and use Warrior's Bearing to, basically scare somebody into line. This brings us to the Oath Techniques, which is the 3rd starting talent for your archetype. You're able to utilize weapons and armor in ways that others cannot. Techniques are activated in combat in order to achieve special effects, each requiring a certain armor quality, weapon quality, or damage type to use. There are 3 types of techniques: defensive, mobility, and offensive, and you begin with 3 techniques. So we're going to talk about the techniques, and I'm going to let Kipser look over them and decide what's going to fit for her, what's going to fit for the type of armor she wants to use, and weapons, etc. So let's get down to techniques. The techniques are Absorbing Turn, which is defensive, Acrobatic Vault, which is mobility, Brace for Impact, which is mobility, Bravo Feint, which is mobility, Duck and Cover, which is defensive, Duelist Wits, which is defensive, Hammer Smash, which, as one would expect, is offensive, Hampering Trip, which is mobility, Penetrating Lunge is offensive, Shield Barge, which is offensive, Sword and Board, which is defensive, Targeteer Shift, which is mobility, Trick Shot, which is offensive, Tuck and Roll, which is defensive, Wild Sweep, which is offensive. And each one of these types has a requirement to it. So like Absorbing Turn requires that you're wearing layered armor. Duelist Wits requires that you're using a weapon that has parry. Targeteer Shift requires you're using a ranged weapon that has the load quality to it. So I'll give you some time to take a look at this. And I'm not tying any of the players down hard to anything they pick tonight. We'll have a week if people want to shift up some things, even if we get into mucking around a little bit tonight. If you decide you really want to change something up between now and next Tuesday, I won't say no, even to Steven.
Ooh, dangerous words.
Jeff, what archetype did you pick?
I am going with Dark Delver, as that's what Fate suggests I should do, as guile in what's it called, training tend to be its thing, and that's I'm not sure if you guys have heard, I have a lot of guile.
He is full of guile.
Yep.
I think you'd be more subtle about it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I like
what?
it.
I couldn't hear you over the sonic boom. What was that, Steven? What's the matter, Kipser? Just laughing. But yeah, Dark Delver. That's what I'm going with. I'm going to be Mr. Rogue.
I like it. So when creating your legend as a skilled adventurer, your 5th step details your need to delve, which we're going to get to in a minute. In addition to the benefits from the table, you gain +1 to your guile, which you can't, so you can put it anywhere else you want, and a +1 to your training.
Now, I have a question on that. I think if I recall, I can only put it in vigor because of the paired attributing thing. I think I can actually only put it in vigor. So, which is fine because that's where I would have wanted to put it anyway.
Yep. Good catch, and thank you for catching that. +1 to training and 3 initial talents, which we're going to talk about here in a second. You're starting as a starting Dark Delver. You begin with a Thieves Kit, a leather jerkin, which is type of armor, a short sword, a dagger, a traveling cloak, and a purse containing 1d12 plus 6 silver pieces. You may also select a light crossbow with 10 bolts or 6 throwing knives.
Well, it should come as no surprise. I rolled max silver pieces, by the way. I'm just very proud of myself for that. Got a little lolly. My d12 for that.
Okay. There you go. So what do you delve in search of? Give me a d12.
Okay. Here we go. I delve in search of lost dwarven cities.
Nice.
So
there's history lost to you in the wider world. The secrets of the age of challenge are lost, but not for long. So you get +1 to tech. I believe that's actually
operate. Maybe
operate. Yes, it's operate.
Okay.
That's going to be changed in the next version. It is operate. Gotcha. So that's like mechanical skills.
And like I think guns and stuff too.
Yep,
siege
guns
weaponry.
And siege weaponry and mechanical.
I'm just going to carry a cannon with me.
I love it.
While I'm stealthing along. If that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put a tablecloth over top of it. No one will know the difference.
Absolutely. Okay, so the 3 talents that a Dark Delver starts with is Elusive Shift. So it is triggered on a reaction. It costs 1 vitality. Use when you are the target of a successful attack or a hazard that targets your evasion defense. So this is a ranged attack against you or a trap of some kind. Increase your evasion by 2 before the effect of the strength is rolled. So it boosts your evasion defense. Once the effect is resolved, you may take a free step, which is a free 5-foot step. And you can use this as many times as you want to spend vitality on it in a day.
Perfect.
In addition, you have the Natural Survivor. At character creation, increase 2 of the following skills. You can put +1 in either Observe, Shadow, Might, or Operate. So 2 of those.
Gotcha. And Shadow is one of the other options, which is basically stealth. I think, right? In this game.
Yeah.
Just the other stealth thing.
It's sneaking, it's pickpocketing, it's all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's trailing people.
I'll figure out the second one, but that one's definitely getting an up. Yeah,
I like it. And the cool and interesting thing about the Dark Delver is Relic Hunter. So you begin with 1 relic of your choice. This item is powerful and attuned only to you. It will not work for any other person. All relics have a minor, sometimes passive function, and a major function, which only works in a limited way or a limited number of times per day. Dark Delvers are collectors by nature, and as they explore, they gather bits and bobs that don't necessarily appear on your character sheet. Occasionally, when deeds are completed, you might find some of the oddities are in fact relics that have bound to you and only manifest at higher levels. So let's talk about starting relics for a Dark Delver.
They're really cool.
I know.
I can't decide. There's like 3 I'm really looking at.
Cool. I mean, I really like all of these archetypes. They are really interesting, but Dark Delver is really one of my favorite. So you've got the Interlayer Container. Minor function, it may hold up to your archetype level +3 worth of bulk and not count towards your bulk limit. So that would be 4. I'm not going to go through the major functions. I'm just going to quickly go through the minor ones for all of these. Monocular analyzer. You gain a die when making an observed check based on vision while wearing this. Yeah. Provisional bilocator. Increase your evasion by 1 to a maximum of 12 plus while you wear the provisional bilocator. So that's just a bump to your evasion defense, which is nice.
And there's a major function that we're skipping over because there's a lot of text, but one of the ones of that is you basically create a double of yourself somewhere else, which is like,
it's so cool. So cool.
Yeah.
It's like, I love the Delvers stuff.
Mhm.
Spectral refractor, gain a die when making shadow checks while wearing the spectral refractor. So it makes you sneakier, kind of fade into the background.
it can literally go invisible.
Literally. And then temporal capacitor, gain a die when rolling for initiative while you wield the temporal capacitor. So it's a time bubble, man.
Mhm.
Time bubble.
I get to be Jericho Wraith is what I
That's
get to
right.
be
You
if
get
I
to be
go that route.
You get to break the game.
Damn right. Hell yeah.
So that's the Dark Delvers relics. So we'll let Jeff tease over that. And then we're going to go to Melissa. And then after we get through that, we're going to cycle back around and each player is going to tell me which particular spells or techniques they picked. So Melissa, what archetype did you pick?
I went back and forth between Lightbearer and Wildwalker, and initially picked Lightbearer, and then was really sad about not being able to do the things in Wildwalker, so then I went with Wildwalker.
I hate to say it, I mean, Wildwalker is my second favorite archetype, and it is just so cool. So let's talk a little bit about the Wildwalker here. Let me get to him. In the game, when creating your legend as a verdant survivalist, your 5th step details your infestation cause. You may choose, you'll roll, my infestation is blank. We'll get to that in a second. You gain +1 to your vigor, and +1 to your education, and 2 initial talents, Nature's Way and Verdant's Adaptation. And we'll talk about that in a second. Windwalkers learn to express Verdant's magic through their bodies. This is represented by adaptations that the Windwalker learn as they complete deeds. These adaptations provide them with additional capabilities, resistances, and attacks. They also develop abilities that help a party when they go on a journey. A starting Windwalker begins the game with an explorer's kit, a short sword, a short bow with 20 arrows, an herbalist's pouch, a traveling coke, and, you guessed it, a purse containing a D12 plus 6 silver pieces.
And I rolled 12, so I have 18 silver pieces.
Nice. Nice. You guys are rocking the cash. And you get to buy some stuff here before the night's over. So now roll a D12 and let's find out what your infestation is.
I rolled a 9, so my infestation is cold-blooded and scaled.
The survivalist nature of the reptilian has proven useful to you many times on your adventures. You get a bonus to survival. So you will explain to us next Tuesday how this cold-blooded scaled manifestation works on your character. And let's talk about these starting talents. So first is Nature's Way. A character creation increased 2 of the following skills: ride, survival, lore, or medicine. So pick 2 of those and up those 2 by 1 each.
Okay.
The second and super cool ability is Verdant's Adaptations. You manifest the raw power of the Verdants through the only channel that is always open to you, your own body. You shift your shape. So the trigger, it takes 3 actions to trigger it. So, it's basically 1 combat round to trigger it, or right before a combat round. Now, interesting about this is it costs you 1 wound. So the shape shifting causes you to take a wound of damage. So you're almost always below maximum health. But the good thing is, once you select an adaptation, it's with you for 24 hours unless you choose to change it. So you can manifest the elements of the Verdants that change your physical form through the activation of adaptations. Once you activate an adaptation, it lasts for a day or until you manifest a new one. Each adaptation provides 3 basic benefits while active. It increases 1 of your defenses by 1, You gain a die when rolling on a particular phase of your journey. We'll get there in a second. And finally, it provides an action that you may use. You get to choose 2 adaptations at character creation, and obviously you can only have 1 adaptation manifested at a time. So let's get down to adaptations. First adaptation is Chitin, or Chitin, I guess that would actually be more accurately pronounced. The features, your defense is toughness, so it will give you a boost to toughness. During the journey phase of an adventure, it will give you a bonus die to encounter, and it gives you the action of Carapace. And I'm not going to read all the actions, but I'll let you look at those as we go through. I'm just going to go through the names and the defense and journey and action name. The second name is Feather, so you get feathers. You know, adapt feathers. Your defense evasion improves. Your journey phase, during navigation phase, you get a +1 die. So if you were the navigator, you get a bonus die for that. And the action is Predator, which sounds cool. I won't spoil it for people. If you select it, you'll tell us all about it. The third adaptation is Hive. So your defense that improves is evasion, again, navigation during journey, and your action is Hornets. This reminds me of the old Marvel villain Swarm. I just got that idea. Or Hart had a B class, the apiary, or
Yeah.
The fourth one is Horn. So the defense bonus is evasion. The journey, so like in a hardship phase, if you were like walking through a bog of a swamp or something, and I told you to roll hardship, you get a bonus die for that. The action is Headbutt. So seems self-explanatory, but we'll see. Your next name is Scale. So the defense that improves is toughness. The journey phase is also hardship, and the action is Slither.
This one seems like it fits what I rolled for the.
It does seem like it fits, but you don't have to pick it. You can pick any 2 adaptations you want. Sure. The next one is Spore. Helps with evasion, defense, navigation, and the action is Cloud. Anybody who plays Baldur's Gate 3, it immediately made me think of the Spore Druids. But the next one is Thorn. It improves your toughness, defense, hardness, hardship phase of your journey, and the action is Bristle. And then the last one is Vine, and it improves your toughness, defense, helps you with your encounter phase of journeying, and the action is Creeper. So you'll get to pick 2 of those. And in a minute, we'll come back and you'll tell us what those 2 are. So, Stephen, have you picked your spells?
I have. I chose 1 from each category. I chose Explosive Room, Firebolt, Summon Barrier, and Cause Fear.
Want to tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so Explosive Rune, I can etch a rune on something, and then if an enemy steps within a certain range, it explodes. The more actions, the bigger the explosion. Firebolt is pretty much exactly how it sounds. I can throw a bolt of fire at someone. The more actions, the more damaging it can be. Summon Barrier is like a force wall. It blocks movement and attacks, but not line of sight or airflow. And the more actions, the bigger the wall can be. And then Cause Fear, again, how it sounds, it's a frightening attack. And then the more it is, it's harder for them to make the save against it.
Awesome. I love it. Kipster, what are your techniques?
So actually, I did have a quick question
Sure.
beforehand. In the weapons section, so I can choose between a battle axe, a longsword, and a warhammer. And the longsword has versatile strength 8. Now, I can see that we've got some toughness, evasion, but where would the strength, like, what is that a combination of?
Sure. I will explain strength. That's actually a wonderful segue. So what's strength?
You're welcome.
Strength is an effect dice. So basically what that is that's telling you the number of damage dice you roll for that weapon.
Oh.
So it's not an attribute, it's not a skill. That's the strength of your attack is what strength means. So
Okay.
it's and the way it works is it's your the base die of your weapon or your spell or whatever type of attack you're using,
Mhm.
plus any additional successes you got on your roll to hit, minus the protection value that the whoever you're attacking has based on what kind of attack you're having. So that's what strength is. It's an effect dice that is all about damage.
And then because it's versatile, I need to have it two-handed to have that effect, right?
Right. So with a long sword,
Okay.
its base strength is 7, but if
Mhm.
you're using it with 2 hands, it's 8.
Okay. Well, I'll grab the longsword, which means I have slashing, and then it said in my equipment that my shield was a medium shield. So looking at the shield section, that doesn't give me a size category. So I assume that more or less, I mean,
It's
like a
just a
round
standard
shield would
shield.
be
Yeah.
tiny and a tower shield would be large. But so I'm going to grab a kite.
Okay.
Because that one gives me boss and arms. And if I have in arms, that means I can take sword and board, which is classic. So long sword and shield. There you go. And then I will grab the Bravo Feint, which is the only slashing one that I'm seeing offhand for an additional vitality for melee attack against the adjusted opponent kind of thing. And then what would you what's a good one that you think would be a good filler for a third one? Should I aim more defensive or just keep going for something?
I'll say this, and this is this so and this kind of let me explain a little bit about how combat works. So a combat round is 6 seconds. In a 6-second round, you have 3 actions. You can move, you can attack twice. There's a lot of different things you can do, and we'll talk about that in a minute. One of the good techniques, I think, for a sword and board person is defensive expert. When you use a defensive technique and are carrying a shield, you count as having taken a free raise the shield action until your next turn.
Okay.
So raising a shield takes 1 action. If you take defensive expert, you basically get to raise it for free. As long as you're defending against an attack. So I mean that it's action economy is not bad. If you want to protect somebody else, defender is pretty good. You spend 1 vitality and take a move. If you end that move adjacent to a party member, they recover 1 vitality and may take a free step. So like if you wanted to move next to Steven before he got bashed in, he'd get a point of vitality back, and then he'd be able to take a free 5-foot step without getting attacked. So that's nice.
Pretty good. All right, and that's defensive.
That was defender.
Defender. Okay. Well, that's because that's sword and board.
I apologize. I am looking at the wrong table.
I was wondering. I might. Okay.
I understand the talents. The talents are things you can buy later down the road.
I'm on page 41.
Yep,
techniques.
Let's see here.
I'm thinking that I do agree that having something with a little bit more defensive might be good, but shielding barge, I believe the
shield barge is pretty good.
Shield barge, because the kite shield gives me, see, this is why it took me a little bit long. I had to jump between a bunch of tables to look at the stats for the equipment. I believe the kite gives me boss as well. But yes, okay. So those are the 3 that I would be looking at then is the sword and board, Bravo Feint, and the shield barge.
I like it. All right. Now that I'm on the right table, and by the way, what I was talking about just a moment ago when I was completely screwing up Pete's wonderful game.
I'm gonna let you.
there's talents, and like I said, when we were talking about deeds, when you complete certain deeds, you can earn specific talents. So that way, like let's say you wanted to get that defender talent, you would look up into the Oath Sworn, or possibly one of the other archetypes as well, and go, okay, well to get that, I have to do these 4 things, right? And then you could build towards that. You could try to maneuver your character into situations where that's going to happen for them. So now that I'm back on track, that was absolutely not a complete error on my part. I was just leading us into a learning moment.
Just more information.
It's not. I totally screwed up. But
okay.
Let's talk about what our Delver picked.
Okay, gosh, Aaron, this was such a difficult decision. This was okay. So really, this is between brain and heart. Okay, because I want to play a ranged character, and so my brain is telling me to take the monocular analyzer, and a little bit of my heart too, because I get to wear a monocle, and that's kind of fun. But that one of the main benefits of that, or the active of that, is that I can make a ranged attack, which I plan to shoot crossbows and things, and you can reduce the target's evasion score by 4, and that sounds really good. And, that sounds like the right play. And then I read Provisional Bilocator, where I can basically be Arnold Schwarzenegger from Total Recall and be in 2 places at once, and I can't not do that. So I'm going with my heart, and I'm doing Provisional Bilocator because I can spend 2 vitality. This is the active. Until the beginning of my next turn, I am present in 2 locations, the other being a location I select within sight and within basically 60 feet. Either version of me can use actions. They don't double, but I can use actions either way and be attacked. Once the effect ends, though, I get to select one of the 2 locations to persist from. So I can literally just be in 2 places at once.
That's awesome. I love that.
And it's hard not to do that. It's just, I don't know if it's going to work. It'll probably get me killed because I can be attacked in both places. So it'll probably backfire and I'll probably get killed. But that's okay. I get to do Total Recall.
It can be so much fun.
You think this is the real Quaid? It is. And I hit him with a crossbow. It'd be great.
I love it.
I love that movie so much. It's ridiculous.
It is so much fun. Okay, Melissa, adaptations. What did you take?
So I did go ahead and take scale.
Mm-hmm. And what scale?
Because I like the sound of that. And I think I might change my mind before next week, but I think I might go cloud. Okay. So I'm envisioning that I sort of have these scales that actually have the spores inside. So if I want to drop them down, then I get to do the slither toughness stuff. But if I pop them open, then it releases the spore cloud. So I might change my mind on the second one. Because I know sometimes the whole cloud thing is oh, great. Now none of us can see if it's poorly timed. But I think it'll be fun.
That's fun. I love that. Now that you guys have picked your ancestries, did that inform in any way on what picked your archetypes? Did that inform in any way on what you want your ancestries to be? Steven?
No, I just chose the one I wanted to be. Okay. I am going to be a dwarf. I was born among the clouds, but I'm a creature of the earth.
I love it. And Kipser, have you decided what your ancestry is going to be?
I did before I did anything else, so I wasn't informed. I was always going to take the giants, the Jotun.
Oh, I love it. So we've got a dwarf and a Jotun. Now, and mini or Jotun, I to be honest with you, I think it's Jotun, but I could be and probably am.
It's not a language I speak.
Me either. So we got a dwarf and a Jotun. I think that's perfect. Jeff, Dark Delver.
I am gonna go with gnome. I'm gonna be a gnome rogue, and I'm gonna be following after Steven's character because he's a dwarf. Be like, hey, do you know where any dwarven cities are? Hey, excuse me, pardon me. Where are your lost cities? Where are they? Are they over here? They're there? Okay. So,
I don't know. I was born on an airship.
That's okay. You probably know something. It's like a night or something.
Oh God, I can't wait. I cannot wait. And Melissa, did you pick an ancestry?
Yeah, I am going to go Saurian.
That makes a lot of sense. So a dwarf, a gnome, a Jotun, and a Saurian walk into a tavern very soon. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit more about some of the other mechanics and get some gear for you guys. So I've been talking a lot about the skills, but I never really laid them out completely. So I'm going to do that right now. So under Guile, there are 3 skills. Observe, and that's how you examine your surroundings and investigate things. It's also how you fire most of your ranged weapons. You see inside on, fire your bow. That is observe. Shadow, we have talked about. That's hiding and sneaking and following people and picking pockets and that kind of things. And street, which we did discuss briefly, that's surviving in an urban environment. The vigor skills are might, and this is all your athletics, your climbing, your running, your swimming. It's also using larger weapons like two-handed swords, etc. It's also used in like hardship rolls while you're journeying. Um, Ride is the second vigor skill, which is sort of self-explanatory. It's riding some sort of animal. It could be a silver dragon, it could be a large dog, whatever it is, you're going to use the ride skill. And then survival, that's living in the wilderness. Your occult skills are arcane. That is understanding and reading runes, interpreting spells, etc. Deceive, as we kind of talked about, that's manipulating people, intimidating people, lying to people. Weird is your gut feelings about the weird and paranormal, your ability to tune into the raw power of the world around you. Your psyche skills are composure, and that's keeping yourself together, keeping control of your body and your mind, you know, resisting mental attacks, overcoming fear. Insight is knowing when somebody's lying to you or getting a feel for people. Perform is what you would expect it to be. It's singing and dancing, playing musical instruments, making speeches. You know, if you were trying to a crowd of rabble rousers, I would probably ask you to make a perform check and then have them kill Stephen. Your next are education skills. Those are lore, and that's basically what it sounds like: understanding politics, society, culture, information. It's book learning. Medicine, healing people. It's the knowledge of plants and creatures and herbalism. If you've got medical kits, it helps you heal people when they've been injured. And we'll get into the specifics of how that works in a bit. Tactics is understanding battle, your ability to apply logic to problems, your skills with puzzles. It's useful for navigating around in phases of your journey phase. Then we've got training skills, craft, that is building things, repairing things, possibly tearing things down in a way that doesn't destroy them. Prowess is your ability, is your martial aptitude. It's the skill that's used for most melee weapons. And then operate, this is your skill for machinery and advanced weaponry, such as firearms and siege weapons. It also covers disabling technical devices like clockwork, gear traps, etc. So those are your skills, and that's how they fall in. And again, as a reminder, you roll the number of dice equal to your attribute, and your skills reduces the difficulty number you need to succeed with that. So now that we've got our archetypes, we've got our legends basically filled out, we are going to go into a little bit of trapping and gear so we can outfit this party of rascals and rapscallions. So everybody has a certain amount of silver. And if you look down on page roughly 43, you can see armors and shields and consumables and equipment and kits and weapons, etc. So why don't you guys spend a few minutes going through that, kitting yourself out, and I'm going to talk a little bit about combat and damage. I've already covered some of this throughout our discussions, but I'm going to go step by step to give some people, everybody at home, an idea. So first, initiative and surprise. Every combat round is about 6 seconds. Within that round, every character gets to take a turn. Every opponent gets to take a turn. The round order alternates between heroes and opponents based on who won the initiative. So one combatant on each side either rolls observe or tactics as an opposed roll, and the side that gets the most successes goes first. Now, if one side has an advantage over the other in terms of surprise, then they get to add 2 dice to their roll. In other words, if you set up an ambush to ambush a group of slavers coming down the road, when you roll initiative, you get 2 bonus dice to beat their initiative. Whoever wins the initiative, that side gets to go first. Then a combatant from the other side goes until everybody is gone. Now, let's say I've only got 2 enemies and there are 4 of you. You go, they go, you go, they go, and then the rest of you go. They don't get additional turns. Each combat turn is broken down into 3 actions and a reaction. And I'm going to go over the actions and what they cost. So you can aim, it costs 1 action, and you gain a die on a ranged attack if your next action is an attack. It does provoke an attack of opportunity if the guy has a reaction, if you're within melee distance of the individual. You can attack, it takes 1 action. You make a melee or ranged attack. It does not provoke an attack of opportunity. There is the attack of opportunity, which is a reaction. You get 1 reaction per round. And that's if somebody meets one of the provoke conditions of the action. You can cast a spell. As we said, it's variable number of actions, up to 3. If you're within melee range of somebody, it would provoke an attack of opportunity. You can drop something that's in your hand. It doesn't cost any action. You can equip something, take an item out, prepare it for use, or stow it away safely, costs 1 action. You can hold your action, and that takes 2 actions to hold your action. It's basically saying, when this condition happens, I'm going to do something with my last action. It's a pretty similar mechanic to a lot of other games. You can move up to your speed for 1 action. You can raise a shield, which takes 1 action. And that is the only way you get to add the protection value of your shield to defend yourself. So if you don't take an action to raise your shield, it does not offer you any protection. You can step, so you can move up to 5 feet without provoking an attack of opportunity. You can take cover behind cover if it's available until the beginning of your next turn. At that point, ranged attacks against you have an increased difficulty of 1. Or you can use an item, a device or a tool that's not a weapon, and that costs 1 action. So it's a 3-action economy. One thing is you can attack multiple times, and this is where I started out in the beginning. The number of successes you have to get, or the difficulty number, increases. So on your first attack, it takes 1 success to successfully hit. Whether or not you do damage is determined by the damage roll, but 1 difficulty to succeed. If you want to make 2 attacks in a turn, your second attack takes 3 successes to hit. So it scales pretty heavily. If you want to make 3 attacks in a turn, it would take 5 successes to get that third attack off. So I mean, you need to be good. I mean, it's possible you can do it. We have talked about damage, so it's the strength rating of whatever you're using, plus any bonus successes you get, minus the protection value of who you're hitting. That's the number of dice you roll against their defense value. And that defense is like, if it's ranged, it would be evasion. So if Jeff's character is firing a crossbow and he rolls, he's got a certain strength for that crossbow. He got 2 extra successes. He ups his dice by 2. The guy's got leather armor, so you take 1 die away. You got that total number. You roll that against his evasion defense. For every dice that's equal to or above his evasion defense, he takes a point of damage. First off of his vitality, and then when he has 0 vitality, then off of his wounds. And when he has 0 wounds, he dies. There's some other mechanics regarding like forced movement and colliding with things, falling damage, different lighting conditions. We'll get into that as we play the game, as it comes up. There are also one of the important bits for players is, how do you recover vitality? So I've already told you, you lose vitality either through taking damage or using some of your talents. For every 30 minutes that you rest, you recover 1 point of vitality, which means generally for a full night's sleep, you're going to get all of your vitality back. Recovering wounds, this is a little more difficult. A character with medical tools that performs a successful medicine check on an injured character heals them for 1 wound. There are some consumables in the game that can heal you for a wound. There may be some magic in the game that can heal you for a wound, but that's it. Or you can rest for 8 hours and get 1 wound back. So healing up in this game is it's not like I take a nap and I've got 100 hit points back. It's you've got to track that stuff because it can bite you. There are various and sundry conditions that can be applied to a character in combat. The 2 I want to talk about are the 2 that happen when you get your vitality reduced to 0. If that happens, you could either be stunned or weakened. A stunned creature has its guile and evasion reduced by 2 until the condition wears off. Or if you're weakened, the character reduces its vigor and toughness by 2 until the condition wears off. And that's a player's choice. You get to decide. If you get on to 0 vitality, you can determine whether you're stunned or weakened. So obviously, you want to play towards your strength. If you're a ranged character, you're probably going to be weakened. If you're a melee character, you're probably going to be stunned. Questions? All right. Did you guys did you pick some gear?
I did. I spent every silver I have.
What'd you spend it on, Steven?
So first things first, this is a fantasy game, so I had to get the 10-foot pole. Immediate investment right there. I'm going to carry that around, and I'm going to pretend that it's 1 foot until I need it.
We'll see how that goes.
I have a dagger which uses prowess, which I'm not that good at, so I grabbed a throwing dart just as a backup, because that uses might, which I'm not much better at, but I figured why not. And then I grabbed a rope, because, again, fantasy.
Mhm.
And then I spent the rest of my money on tinctures, which allow me to drink them for 2 vitality. And a lot of my spells require vitality. So I'm thinking that I'll be able to heal myself as I'm casting spells.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Kipser, how about you?
I rolled a 2 on my silver, so I had a total of 8. Yeah. But essentially from my character sheet, I got the explorer's kit, which is a backpack, rations, tent, 3 torches, and water skin. I've got the chain hauberk, kit, kite shield, traveling cloak, longsword. So that's all my standard gear. And then I picked up a throwing knife because I just wanted something ranged. It uses might that I'm not too bad with. And I grabbed a rope because fantasy, and I'm keeping 3 silver because money can be important.
Money can be important, yeah. How about you, Jeff?
Well, I had purchased a rope, but now I don't know if I want to because the two of them purchased ropes. And I know that we can do the classic, let's tie them together. No, I don't. I can just claw. And then I could just do my thing where I like tell her, like, I'm going to go up there. And then boom, I'm there. Okay, so I got, I have more bolts. So I got a little bit more bolts for my crossbow, even though I have some to begin with. I got a little bit more. I also got a tincture, only 1. I got a couple torches. I got some rope, and I don't know what's wrong with these people. I got some rations. What are you just gonna? You're not gonna eat? No, you're not eating my food. If you wanted fries, you should have ordered your own. Okay, so no one's taking.
Did you miss when I said rations?
Aaron,
I was more talking to Steven.
Oh, fair enough.
I was banking on Aaron just not making us track that to save the silver.
I can see your might roll every hour as you're trying to suffer through while Jeff's gnome is
I've
eating.
got 2 survival. I'll find some
You'll
berries and roots.
You'll
I'm supposed to be eating
like, Nutrigrain bar. This tastes so good.
You share those rations, I'll tell you where the dwarven cities are.
Really?
He would do
some deception versus insight here.
Yeah. I was thinking actually, if there's a lot of rope, I think I might not get rope, and then I will spend money to get an herbal salve because we don't have a healer, and so maybe
I was going to get the herbal salve.
I think we might want more than one.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I picked up medicine for one of the options that I had, so I've got one in medicine. So, and herbal salve.
It is going to be a short run. We're only going to play, a couple of sessions. However, I'm a violent, and cruel GM. So, I mean, murdering you is probably pretty high on my list of things to do. So it'd be good to have somebody who could get a little bit. That was my inside voice. I didn't mean for it to come out like that. But
Aaron, you were muted
behind Steve.
I don't know if you.
That's all I'm gonna do.
That'll draw a lot of fire.
Take a breath and just heal myself. I don't need to worry about other people, right?
So, Melissa, what did you end up getting other than the healing tincture?
So a sling bag, because things need to go in something, and it just seemed funny to imagine a lizard folk with one of those crossbody sling bags, because that's the style of it in my head. Torches, because torches. Do we have a torch? Yes, we do. So 3 torches. and a tincture and an herbal salve, which if I keep all of those things, I will have spent all of my silver. So we're relying on other people to have silver to buy things if we ever need to buy anything.
Who knows? Maybe you guys
Am I
will
the
get
only
a
one that kept
job,
silver?
and we'll see. We'll see.
I
Okay.
banked on you all to have the
Right?
ration silver and torches. I figured I don't need to waste my
I
money.
got
on
the
that.
least amount of money. I just kept a little bit of it, and that's it. That's all the whole money.
That's
I
funny.
mean-
You got 8 and you saved some somehow, and I got
Yes.
18 and
Yeah.
spent every last.
I spent
Like we can
bit of it.
afford
everything.
anything.
I'll just steal some.
Everything.
I'll just steal
That's
some
a good
from
point.
people.
Hey,
I'm
you
gonna
know,
steal it from Kipser. There's no way that her giant Jotun would see me.
Well, yeah, but you can't reach up to my silver pouch, so
I have my thing. I'm like, oh, I'm here, and I'm also up there. Here we go.
I love it.
Off.
I love it. We are here to test the game, so if you want to do some thievery, I'm quite happy to see how that works. So we have our 4 characters. We don't have names for them yet, but we have a general idea of who they are. Next week, all of our players will go through their legend and they will fill in the gaps for us, and they will tell us who these people are. But before that happens, we're going to kind of set the scene for our adventure. This is going to be, we're paying homage to an old classic Dungeons and Dragons module, the Village of Hommlet. It was when it came out brand new. It was the second adventure I ever played in. The first being the Judges Guild Dark Tower. So this is not going to be a recreation of the Village of Hamlet. We're just using it as a setting. I'm going to use some of the information front up. We're going to play with it a little bit, but just I felt like revisiting an old friend. So we start out. It's been raining for days. A bedraggled troop of 4 adventurers, the remains of a mercenary company that had been hired and were fighting in the bandit kingdoms, fighting, unfortunately, for the losing side. As it was clear they had no chance, that they were not going to get paid for the work they had already done. The mercenary captain, leaders, and sergeants were dead. 4 of the band withdrew from the battlefield as the fires raged, as the screams of the dying surrounded them. They made their way on their exhausted mounts towards refuge. A day from the battle, the last of their mounts finally perished from wounds it had taken, and our adventurers were on their own feet, exhausted, road weary. They found a road, and better yet, a signpost pointing towards a village, the village of Hommlet. They'd heard of it. It's a large village, almost a town, boasting robust trade, inns, large church. There are other rumors about it. Something tickling in the back of your mind. Why doesn't somebody give me a lore roll?
I'm good at those.
So it's your
I think.
So what is your education score?
My education is 5 and my
Okay.
lore is 1. So I believe I'm looking for an 11.
So you're looking for a 10. So the base difficulty
10.
is 11. If you got
Oh,
1
yeah.
in education, that reduces it down to a 10. So you're looking for, and then tell me the number of successes you get, if you get any. Remember,
The hero die.
if your hero die matches another die, that counts as a success. Now, if your hero die succeeds and matches another die, that counts as 2 successes. So
My hero die is the only one to succeed and nothing matches.
okay, so you got 1 success. So you recall that the village of Hamlet was decades ago was infamous for a mad sorceress priest who built a temple to a defiled deity somewhere near the village of Hamlet. And it was from the village of Hamlet that adventurers trekked out and found this temple and razed it. though the legend itself doesn't say much about what happened to those adventurers or the temple. It's just everybody agrees that they razed the temple, but not much else about it. But that's all you recall.
I only remember a wee bit about this temple. I haven't got any idea what happened to the adventurers that went there, but I do not believe it was good.
I mean, what do you mean it wasn't good? Like they didn't get proper pay, or they got like smushed into smithereens? Because there's a spectrum of not good.
If I was a gambling dwarf, I would bet on the smush.
Oh,
I don't think I can smush easily.
You would be surprised how easily you could smush.
I can smush. Yes, as an action, quite easily.
oh, you mean you can't be smushed easily? I understood.
Yes.
I see. Okay. Well, I guess. But that was like a while ago. I'm sure it's better now, right? Like they probably, learned from past mistakes and made some new municipal laws to be more welcoming to adventurer sorts. Yeah.
You're off your hide, man.
I'm off my hide. No, I'm wearing it around. It's right here. It's underneath. I don't want to be stabbed, so it's gonna hit right there.
Either way, I want somewhere to sleep that's nice tonight.
And so the party continues on foot. The rain continues to pound down on your shoulders unabated as you're walking along this muddy track leading towards the village of Hamlet. You walk through the late afternoon and into the early evening, and you finally come upon the outskirts of Hamlet. The streets are fair. The main street is fairly wide and cobblestone. There are lanterns and torches lit. There are people walking around the street. It looks, at least this part of the village seems fairly safe and fairly successful. Lamplighters are going about. You can hear songs and sounds coming out, blaring out from inns and taverns up and down the street. What would you like to do?
Clearly,
Well-
we must make our rounds and gather information first before we just lay our head down without knowing what lies here.
That's a good idea. You can keep going, and I'm just going to look in that tavern over there.
I'll help you.
You're going to help me do my circle around, or are you going to help?
No, I'm
that
going
one
with the
drinking?
unsmushable big one. So,
That's probably wise.
yeah, you're weird. No offense.
You can take the other one who talks a lot. Probably a good idea.
I would rather not. Could I just come with you?
Okay, we can talk about all your heritage and where you came from and your peoples. Oh, I'm so excited to learn more.
All right, we can
glad-
talk.
Fine.
I'm up
This will-
here.
I will do a better job on my own. Enjoy your drink.
Bye.
Have any of you ever noticed that the taller you get, the slower you speak?
What are you talking about? I
No,
don't talk very
I
fast.
speak normally.
So our
Maybe it's
Jotun
just-
friend.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say maybe it just takes longer for the noise to get all the way down to the rest of us, and she's actually talking, our speed.
Could you say something on a knee?
Oh,
On
that's
a
a
knee?
good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, take a knee.
I'm down here.
You know what? Melissa's unnamed character. I think I might want to go with you now instead.
Oh,
No,
Okay.
it's fine. You've made your intention known that you would prefer to go and drink. I can do this on my own.
Okay, I will babysit then. We will be here when you are ready.
So, is it Frosty or Frosty or?
Frosty, the not snowman.
Okay, Frosty. As you approach, you can see that the inn is clearly not originally designed for Jotun. You're about 8 feet tall, so you're going to have to cramp down. As you approach, you see that it's a large walled building with a square wooden sign showing a buxom, young, smiling woman holding a flagon of beer, and the name is the Welcome Winch. Yes, it is a 1970s module, but as you go in, you see most of the tables are filled. You see a smattering of different ancestors. You see elves and humans and a few orcs. You are the only Jotun in the inn, though. And the innkeeper looks up to you. He looks at you really sharp. He's like, welcome.
Thank
Please
you.
be careful. I don't think that any of my furniture is built to Jotun standards.
Your lighting is very close to my face.
Yes. So is my ceiling.
True.
I over by the hearth. There's a fairly large area. If you'd like to sit there, I can come and take your order. And your tiny friends as well. I mean,
yes.
tiny relative to you. Yes, please have a seat.
I will sit over there then.
And he comes round. He's a portly man in his probably late middle age. He's balding. He's got kind of 2 or 3 chins. He's smiling openly and chuckling to people as he walks over towards you, but kind of see that the smile never quite reaches his eyes, and his eyes are always moving. He is always keeping an eye on what's going on in his small kingdom. So then, what can I get you?
Hopefully dinner and a bed for the evening. Those two are not on my tab.
I have to tell you, to be honest, I can make room for you in the stable. I'm sorry, we don't have any rooms available that would accommodate your size. I normally have one room, but there's a merchant captain, and he has already secured it for the week.
Unfortunate. Though maybe someone would like to visit a merchant captain. I will take the outside then. I don't mind.
Well, I'll tell you this then. The meal and the outdoors, and then it'll be 1 silver for the night for that, and your meal tonight and your breakfast in the morning.
Excellent. Here is 1 silver for myself.
Excellent. And you fine gentlemen, Master Dwarf, Master Gnome.
Do you have any haggis?
Oh,
and we're on her tab.
They are not.
She's indicated that you were not on her tab. We do not have any haggis. I've got a boar on the spit, and we've got some stew as well. Red trenchers with sausage.
I'll take the stew and sausage.
All right. And you, Master Gnome?
Call me Francois Gerard Depardieu. It's a pleasure to meet you. And that whole thing with her not pay. That's just a joke we play, but that's fine.
It's not.
Oh, see, she's such a jokester. Just jokey. We couldn't get her to shut up when we were wandering up here, but I'll have what he's having.
Right. All right, gentlemen. That's 3 copper pieces each.
Okay. That's for me. Okay. There you go.
All right. He looks to Black Billy Lotus, the dwarf, Master Dwarf.
Oh, you want me to pay now?
I do, yes.
Oh, no.
Normally you pay at the end of the meal.
I will slide over my last silver.
Here you go.
Okay.
It's fine. It's for both of us.
Okay, so he gives you change. Let's see, that would be 4 coppers back to you.
Okay.
I'll bring your meals. Right away. Please relax. Where are you headed from? That bedraggled. Looks like you've been out in the rain for days.
Yes.
Well said.
All right then. Okay, I'll get back to
Like
you.
we said, she never shuts up.
I know. Just jabbermouth. I've had to deal with this for days. Oh,
As you're
goodness.
talking to his back as he walks away.
Well, that's right.
And we shift our focus to Denza, our Saurian. What is Denza up to?
So she's just sort of wandering the perimeter, just sort of seeing what folks are up to, if there's anyone that seems to look a bit sketchy.
Okay. Let's get a roll. Let's get an observe roll. That's based off your guile.
Okay, so walking me through this again. So I have 3 guile and 0 observe.
So you get to roll 3 dice, and you need an 11 or a 12 to succeed.
Yeah. That is 7, a 10, and a 4.
Okay, so you didn't succeed, but you're only 1 success away from succeeding. So if you wanted, you could spend a point of vitality to make that a success. You don't have to. I'm just saying you could.
And sorry, vitality. How many? Okay, I have 9 vitality.
Sounds about right.
Sweet. Well, we're testing things out, so of course I will spend a vitality.
Okay, so you see in the area of the town you're in, this main thoroughfare is actually quite nice. There's some guild halls. There's a lot of very nice traders. You see down some of the alleys, you can see some sketchier people. One of the things that is prominent is you're going across, you're across the street from a guild hall, and you see a crier out there. And he's speaking of the news of the day, the news of Hamlet, and he's announcing work opportunities. And one of the things that he mentions is that the traders, Ravnos Duval and Grey Mag, are looking for adventurers to undertake a simple task on their behalf to retrieve something that has been stolen from them.
And she will approach the crier. Where might we find Ravnos Duval and?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. You go down this street and you look for a wooden building with shutters and several windows. And outside the door, there's a shield and a lantern suspended from chains. And the shield is painted to show a sword and a cheese. They're merchants, very successful merchants. In fact, they just posted this evening. Apparently, they're looking for someone to help them out rather quickly. So that's
sorry. The cheesemongers are looking for adventurers.
They're merchants. Part of what they sell is they frequently outfit adventurers and mercenary bands. So they sell rations and equipment and weapons and the like. That's why the shield and the sword and the cheese. They cover it all.
I see. That makes much more sense. So you say this was just posted.
Yes.
Do not appear to be takers yet.
Well, I mean, they literally within the last hour, I was requested to include this, and it'll go out in the handbills tomorrow as well. But it's a matter of some urgency.
Save them the printing, and I can just go there now and tell them that we would be interested.
I'm sure they would love to hear that.
And she'll repeat the directions back and then start
Yes,
walking, get halfway away, turn back around. Thank you.
Absolutely. And make sure to tell them that Wilbert was the one that sent you. I get a little commission off of that. Wilbert with a W. Not Vilbert. He's my cousin and a complete bastard. Wilbert.
Wilbur.
Wilbert, yes.
Good. Bert.
With a T, Wilbert.
Is Wilbur another cousin of yours?
I don't know any Wilbur, but I mean, it's a fairly large village. But if you say the town crier Wilbert, not Vilbert, they will know who you speak.
I will make sure they know that your cousin is ill-named. Thank you.
Yes. And you can't miss them. Ranvus is an elf, very tall, and Gremag is an orc. And she's an orc. You can't miss them. Lovely people.
Thank you.
Excellent.
She'll head off in the direction that he mentioned.
Right. And so we see Denzel winding her way through town. We flash back into the inn. And as the meal is being set before you.
What is the meal?
I think you guys ordered trenchers and sausage, right? And he brought for you part of the roast and some fried peppers and mushrooms.
Lovely. Thank you.
Will there be anything?
You didn't say Boris was on a spit.
There is a boar on the spit, not boars on the spit.
The fried mushrooms. No one at all.
Heard it.
I don't get it.
I got it.
I'm confused.
So I'm just going to eat my sausage like it's corn on the cob.
I love it. So is there anything else while in the end that you would like to do other than eat and warm yourself by the fire?
Suspicious characters. Are there any around? Are we being observed? Has our presence been felt?
Give me an insight check.
Okay. Totally not what I'm good at. Yeah. I probably shouldn't ask that question. Okay. All right. That is a fail. Abject failure. Nothing.
Okay. So I mean, you're noticed. Everybody is focused in, or eyes are darting over to the Jotun because they're not that common in this area. But you don't see anybody that is that you feel it has any kind of malicious intent towards you. It's more just like open curiosity as far as you can tell.
So he'll just blurt out like,
I thought you said this was a bad place for adventurers. Everyone seems very nice so far.
That's true, Billy.
What?
Are you Billy now as well?
Oh no, my name's Sonny. Sonny Kaboom.
My name's Billy.
Okay.
Did you forget who you were talking to?
No.
Well, you were looking at him.
No, I understand that looking down makes it hard to tell who I'm looking at because you're very down there, but I actually meant Billy, who told us the lore of the town. No.
Oh, that was me.
Yes.
Your name's
Okay.
I
Billy.
thought I just told you that some adventurers got lost.
But you said they got smushed.
There was squishing
I
involved.
said I would bet on them being smushed, yes.
Ah,
Okay. Well,
Hey, tavern keeper?
Yes, Master Gnome.
We're just passing through. But is there any job board or something of that we could, mate. We have a very interesting array of skills that we could perhaps put to use. If there's anything, maybe yourself or anyone else in the village. It's a very fine village. It's absolutely not built atop a history of smushing adventurers.
Yes, no, definitely. It's not.
It's not.
It's a village built on the reputation of embracing adventurers and sending them off to other places to be smushed.
Oh, that makes perfect sense.
No smishing here, actually. Yes, I mean, there's the town criers post and speak of jobs and other town events. There's a handbill that's put out a few times a week, and then specific guild halls and the church occasionally have odd jobs, but the militia occasionally have work to be done. But typically, the town crier is a good place to start. They can usually point you in the right direction.
Oh, wonderful, because he's really smart. I can fix stuff, and she can carry things.
I mean, if you're looking for just manual labor, there's always work to be done. I mean, if you're looking for jobs, you just struck me as the sort that might be looking for more flexible work schedules.
I'll definitely like to work from home if that's an option. Remote work would be wonderful.
Not knowing where your home is, Master Gnome, I can only guess that
that's fair.
I wish you the best in that endeavor.
I'll see. Well, that's not untrue. We do have certain interests outside of, daily sustainable wages. You wouldn't happen to know of any more lucrative opportunities?
But like I said, I don't personally. I normally just send people off to the town crier.
Okay.
The last handbill came out a few days ago, so one should be coming out in a day or so. And then you could check with the various guild halls. They're often posting for work.
Oh, wonderful. You've been very, very helpful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Enjoy your meal, and if you need anything else, flag me down.
Will do.
And then we
I suppose
slide
we're
out.
off for work.
Yeah.
I get up and I head out of the tavern, and my 10-foot pole hits on the door frame as I'm going out.
You see the innkeeper's like, oh, adventurers.
There's notches from where every other adventure with the 10-foot pole hits there.
So as you're leaving the tavern, we find Denza looking up at the sign outside the door with the shield and the lantern suspended under it. And the lights are still on in the building. It's early evening. It's a little past supper time at this point, but they still seem to be open.
Just loud thump at the door.
And you just hear a deep, gravelly female voice. Come in, it's open.
And so she just kind of pushes the door open.
And as you walk in, you see, I mean, this is a trader's establishment. You see sections with weapons, and you see armor, and you see postings for where the blacksmith shop is and how to coordinate with the blacksmith to get some of your weapons and gear tailored to you. All sorts of adventuring gears laid out. And behind the counter, you see a female orc in her middle age. She's got long braided hair pulled back. Kind of a pinkish color eyes. One of her tusks is broken off a little bit, and she smiles at you and she waves you towards the counter.
Yes, hi. I am here because Wilbert, the town crier, I've been instructed to inform you it was Wilbert, not Vilbert, but Wilbert.
Got it. Wilbert, yes, I know him. And his cousin.
Yes.
It's a reprobate.
Yes. He informed me that you have an employment opportunity.
Well, we do. And to be honest, it's probably more than a single mercenary can handle, but
I am not alone.
You represent a group. Wonderful.
Yes, the rest of my party thought it more important to go wet their proverbial whistle before taking stock of our new
Mercenaries.
surroundings.
What can you do? I will tell you though, this job it needs to be fulfilled quickly. We would hope that you would be starting out in the morning if possible. I mean, we had not expected to run across a group this quickly who would be willing to take the job. But hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. Ranvos, come out here. We might have someone who's willing to undertake that small task that we have. And from in the back comes an older looking elf. They have long silvery white hair pulled back, wearing very fine clothes with a half cape. He's got very long, slender fingers. He's got rings on each of their fingers. They come up to the counter. So, Gray Mag, you say that this individual might be willing to do the job? She says she's part of a group. Well,
There are 4 of us in total.
for that might do. Understand we would need confirmation that you are willing to take the job before we could discuss the details fully. I have a contract. If you can gather the rest of your group, we could go over the job and sign the contract, and then I could explain the nature of the requirement. It's recovery in basic. It's recovery of a stolen item, but in the details, that's where things get a little trickier. So we're here.
Understood.
If you wish to gather your rest of your troop.
Yes. And so she wants to look at how well dressed that individual was,
Mhm.
and then look at the contract details regarding pay and see if
Mhm.
those two seem to be appropriate to each other.
He's got the contract, but he's not actually showing it to you yet. He's not willing to discuss the contract details. Have you together? But you
Okay.
can give me let's call this either a street or a shadow to kind of get a glimpse at the contract.
I do have 1 in shadow. So,
Takes the difficulty down to 10.
okay. And so is there a primary attribute that I'm pairing with this?
There is indeed. That is your guile skill.
Okay. So rolling 3 again. And so now my target this time is reduced by 1. So I'm looking for 10s.
10, 11, or 12.
All right. So I'll walk this through because I think this might be a couple things. So my fancy dice
Mhm.
was a 12,
Okay.
and
very
another
nice.
one of my dice was a 12.
Okay. So that's 3 successes right there. All right. So with
Great.
3 successes, you're able to get a really good look at the contract, actually. He doesn't realize that you can read upside down. So while it was out, you were scanning over the document. And there are several particulars of it. The location, actually, what you're doing is hunting down a partner of these 2 individuals. They were doing research into an arcane key that would unlock a hidden temple beneath the ruins of an old moat house about a day and a half's march outside of the village. They had just uncovered information about this temple. You believe the very same temple that you heard about from Billy earlier in the day. Their third partner absconded with the key. However, he does not know where the lock is that fits it. He left before he got all of the information, and the lock, this magical lock, is hidden somewhere within the moat house. So they think you probably have a few days to get to this partner and retrieve the key. The pay is dependent on how well you do. If you get there, you retrieve the key and get it back to them without the partner, or with the partner escaping, each individual would get 5 gold pieces. Now, if you are able to either capture and recover the partner, or if the partner dies and you recover the key, you would each get 10 gold pieces. If you're able to recover the key, deal with the partner, and figure out where the secret lock is for the key, you would each get 25 gold pieces upon your return, and possible future contract work, probably related to the temple itself. So a small fortune.
Yeah, and so imagining that maybe there is like a candle or something on the other side that kind of illuminated it that he might not have noticed, and she can she has to sort of cover the light at reading those numbers there. Yes, I will exit and locate the rest of my group, and we'll bring them back.
Wonderful. We look forward to meeting with you and your group on your return. But please, as quickly as you can, time is sensitive, which I'll explain to you when I explain the contract a little more in detail. And as that we see Denzo walking out of this traders. We see our other 3 adventurers walking out of the tavern, hopefully to meet up on the streets of the village of Hommlet, so they can travel off to the ruined moat house in search of a nefarious thief and the secret entrance to a hidden temple. And that is where we are going to end tonight's session. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with me as we went through character creation. I really like the character creation system for this game. I think it's a lot of fun. I think the archetypes are very different, and they bring something very different to the table and very different mechanically. So I wanted to showcase that. And then next week, we're going to get into a little bit of journeying. We're going to get into a little bit of dare say combat. We're going to see we're going to see how this shakes out. So once again, take a look. We've got the links to the Kickstarter page is in there. Kickstarter is going. It's got about, I think, 28 days left on it, so there's plenty of time to take a look at it. Pete's on the Kickstarter page. Pete's got some videos explaining the game much better than I did tonight. Once again, you can also go to Garblag Games, take a look at his playthroughs of this, several weeks of it, with the Red Hand of Doom. And once again, there's also the Discord channel that you can take a look at and ask Pete some questions directly. And if you really just want to dive into the game yourself using the quick starter rules, go to drive-thrurpg. You can download them. They're free. Quickstarter rules are free. The initial adventure is free. There's some pre-generated characters. And so you can dive into your own adventure. You can stress test the mechanics and have some fun with it yourself. So I hope everybody watching either tonight on Twitch or on YouTube enjoyed our first session of Heroic Deeds. I hope my players did. I know I had a good time with it. Real quickly, speaking of Garblag Games, I'll do a quick recap of what they've got going on. So tomorrow, normally you would see me in the narrator's seat as we continue the Marvel Multiverse Cataclysm of Kang. However, this week I have to be on base because work is once again interfering with my hobbies as it does. So there'll be no game on this tomorrow, but Thursday, definitely tune in at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can see the king himself, Pete, Mr. Garblag, running Heroic Deeds. So you get to see a master at work. And then the following Tuesday, you can find Millie the GM continuing her Coriolis run. And that's all I've got. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff.
Awesome. For us here on the Lollygaggers, our next stream is Thursday. We're doing more Werewolf the Apocalypse. We're getting very, very close to the end of our chronicle. Probably not the finale, but getting very close. You can see a bunch of us in that game. Friday, Aaron is going to be hopping back into the GMC. He's going to be doing Warhammer 40K, Wrath and Glory. Saturday, we're doing Call of Cthulhu, Eternal Lies. Monday, we've got Fragged Empire. And Tuesday, we're back to this. And then, Steven, why don't you tell people why they should join our Discord?
Well, first of all, because I'm there. That's reason enough as it is. But if it's not reason enough,
that was the reason I was playing.
Oh,
Are
okay.
there others?
Well, then we can move on then.
No, but I think I want to hear about
There is
these
a bonus
other reasons,
reason.
though. Oh,
there is a
interesting.
bonus reason. I am working on my own game. If you're watching this, you either like Lollygaggers, you like me, you like Aaron, you like new games. Any of those reasons except for Aaron is a good reason to sign up to playtest my game.
That's fair.
I mean,
Aaron
couldn't they be
playtesting my
watching
game,
it
but he hasn't yet.
because they like Kipser and Melissa too? Why is it just the three of like that? Just what is that about? Jeez,
Yes, Steven.
Well, Melissa
Man.
doesn't like me, so she's
Let me never
instantly out.
let Steven do his
and-
plug again.
I know, right?
Anyways, I'm making a new game. It's a Weird West game. It's a lot of fun. You should come play it with me. Come play test it with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Having played it a couple times, it's very fun. You should come.
I am going to find a time to do it because I love Weird West. It is actually
It's a lot of fun.
Almost my favorite genre of games to play. So
Fantastic. I think that's it then. We're going to go ahead and raid, come back in a week. Check out all the links. If you're watching this later on YouTube, check the show notes. I'll have links to all the stuff for Heroic Deeds and Discords and things like that down there. So you can find all that stuff there. We're going to go ahead and raid someone. Let's raid Interpoint Station. They're doing some kind of hex crawl thing. That seems to fit with what we're doing. So have a great night, everybody. We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.
good night.